I know you guys are ready for a follow-up on this previously mite-infested lady, and I know you're also interested to know how I treated, so we're going to talk about that now. So just to recap, this is my beautiful splash lace red Wyandotte hen. I noticed that her vent looked dirty. It's dirty. And then upon further inspection, I found that she was riddled with mites. All of this in here is not, in fact, dirt. At that point, I was horrified and immediately treated with ivermectin Poron because I always keep it on hand. I am in Florida. I know from experience with my dogs, with my goats, with my chickens, that I'm just in a parasite-riddled land. And so because of that, I have to keep anti-parasitic meds on hand at all times. This time around, to treat this lady for mites, I used ivermectin Poron. I'm sorry. Normally it has a label right here. Mine's just kind of old. And I just use a regular old dropper. You'll hear dosages a couple different ways. Usually I'll say I just do 2 to 9 drops per bird, depending, but the official ivermectin dosage for ivermectin Poron, now this is for use in cattle. Using in chickens is an off-label use, but it's agreed upon amongst all of us chicken keepers that ivermectin Poron for cattle also works for internal parasites, excluding tapeworms, external parasites, mites, lice, scaly-leg mites in our chickens. So the official dosage for ivermectin is actually 0.2 to 0.4 cc's per kilogram weight of the bird. So when you calculate that, 1 pound is like just under a half a kilogram, but you can go onto the interwebs and just find a converter that will convert pounds to kilograms for you. This lady's probably about 6 pounds. So at about 6 pounds, she would be at just about half a cc of ivermectin, which ends up being probably about 6 drops. When I dropped the ivermectin on her, I did it all right around the vent because that's where those mites were. If I were treating preventatively or for lice, internal parasites, I would also put a couple drops on the back of the neck and under the wings. But ivermectin actually works topically, kind of like Revolution does in cats, where it seeps in through the bloodstream, and then as the parasites bite and suck the blood, they get the antiparasitic medication then, and then they die. And that's as opposed to something like Electro PSP, which I also really love. But Electro PSP works when the parasites come into contact with it on the skin. It doesn't seep in through the bloodstream like ivermectin does. A lot of you were asking if I needed to treat the other pens around, if they would have also been affected by mites. I did check everybody. I went over every chicken here. I probably have 100 chickens, and there were a few chickens here and there. Every time I see mite or lice issues in my chickens, it always seems that there's like 1 or 2 or 3 sacrificial birds, and then everybody else is totally fine. Some birds are just more capable of handling the parasite load than others. Maybe they have like better preening methods than others. So I did go ahead and treat topically all of my other blue lace red Wyandottes within this pen, and then for everybody else on the property, I just did a preventative treatment of ivermectin injectable, the 1% actually put into the water. I did a rate of 4 cc's of the 1% ivermectin injectable per 1 gallon of water, and that is as I got it out of the Chicken Health Handbook. And there's a link to that in my link tree. I love that book. I suggest that everybody have a copy to help diagnose and treat your own chickens. For the rest of the pens, I treated in the water. I treated for 2 days in a row, made the water fresh each day, and made sure that that was the only water that they had access to. Now, ivermectin only deals with live parasites, so I will have to go back through again and retreat everybody in 10 days just to get any eggs that may have hatched in the meantime, and just to double check to make sure no mites that got missed. Really though, that ivermectin topical works really, really quickly, and within like an hour of treating that first splash lace red Wyandotte the other day, there was no moving mites on her. Even though the feathers still appear dirty, it'll take some time for her to just get herself cleaned up after dealing with that infestation.